The financing contingency is the third contingency that we typically see in a contract and what we're going to be talking about today. And so when we look at a purchase contract and somebody's getting a mortgage, typically there is a financing contingency in place. And a question that can come up from the buyer or the seller if the deal does have an issue and can't close for financing reasons is, why do I have that approval letter? I thought the lender already approved the buyer or approved me to buy this property. And so let's take a look at what that approval is. So the lender is pre-approving somebody based on their current snapshot of their income, debt to income, credit score. All of those things are things that they look at, and they look at in some depth at the person's finances. But it is a snapshot in time, and it is a lot for most people. It is somewhere in the neighborhood of 30, 60, 90, or even further out days from the time they get the pre-approval letter until the closing. And so the lender doesn't know what is going to happen in the future. So let's say someone's credit score takes a dip because they don't make their payments. Let's say something happens in their life where they need to go now buy a car and that changes their debt to income, or if their job status changes, or if they take a new job, or if their salary gets reduced and gets cut in half. Something happens that changes the status. And so the lender is pre-approving at that snapshot in time, but by the time they get to the closing, something could have changed. And that changes the person's ability to get that loan. And that's why there's that final finance contingency typically in the contract. It's usually about 3 days to 7 days before the closing. If your closing is further out, like 60 to 90 days, it's not going to be quite that far. It might be several weeks or a month before closing, but it is something that's usually going to be done, within a few days to a week of the closing. To get that final financing. And so if it does fall apart, or if the lender can no longer give that buyer the loan, the buyer's typically going to look to see if there's other options that they can get the loan, or if they can do a different program, or what they can do to still buy the property. But if it gets to the point where they cannot get the financing, that is where they're typically not going to be able to move forward, and that would void the contract, and then there would be no closing. So hopefully this helps somebody out there. If you have any questions or would like to discuss this any further, please let us know. Have a great day. Thanks.